it early?
Yeah, I ain't. It's early.
Huh,
Well,
okay.
that's it. I have decided that I'm not going to do another live the rest of this year.
Oh,
Uh, yeah, I'm done.
well,
It'll be
it's been a
it'll
good
be
run.
sometime. It'll be sometime next year before I do another live. I'm just quitting the lives this year. So just giving you a
Uh,
heads up.
it reminds me of grade school all over again.
But yeah, it is officially the end of 2023 tonight. So it's been a heck of a year, and I got sawdust in my eyes. We've had CNCs running in here all day. Uh,
Yeah,
but
I
it's been
was I was running mine this week. People probably caught my. Oh, that's the bad one. Sorry. People hopefully caught my bottle opener thing, and between that and some bowls and trays I was testing cutting on there, I'm like, yeah, this thing needs. First off, I need to get the larger dust collection going on that spindle. Secondly, if I'm going to run it for that long, I'm going to build an enclosure for that. So
well, yeah. I'm gonna hold off on building any enclosures just yet because I don't know where I'm gonna land still. I did make a cool little piece of scrap wood project today. I don't ask me what it is. It's just like I guess you could put stuff in it on your desk or whatever. But
catch all tray, yeah.
yeah, it was just a little piece of scrap wood, and I'm like, hey, my wife's always telling me I need to clean the shop up, so I took a piece of scrap wood and organized it. Did that. That was fun. I got to upload some pictures where I can show you these pictures too. Uh, yeah, I just been goofing off. I haven't done anything content related. Been doing a little studying on VCarve because I'm still a novice at VCarve. Got a little better at it towards the end, so that was good. A lot more goes into that than does easel. Easel's kind of like preset settings, put it in there and send it, and it works. But I did learn that you can manipulate things and make them run the way you want to a lot better in VCarve. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, I'm digging it, but I've got to learn it. I've got to get better at it. Me and Klein, he was over here. He wanted to learn how to use one, and so we fired up the little was it Prover 3030 and got it going and made a couple of cool little projects for him as well as just you know trial and error on settings for the machine. So that was pretty neat. And then I
Good. Yeah.
got, let me see, I'm trying to download this stuff. I have to send it to my Google account to download it.
Um, yeah. Concern on that Bauer unit, the speed control. I've heard mixed people report on whether it has that or not. Most of the clones of the Makita don't have it, and from my experience, I would suspect that it does not, because I have noticed it definitely bogs a little bit more than my Makita on things. So I'm still kind of running it through some projects, still feeling it out as an option. But as I mentioned in the video and here, it was a $40 special. So I thought, hey, we'll play around with it. I've got a Makita on my Onefinity, and I actually had plans to swap that out with a spindle. I've just been dragging my feet on getting all of that kind of wired up and routed, and because I kind of have to take the machine offline for a bit and dedicate a good day to getting that set up. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, so far I've been able to do some projects with it. Obviously not keeping up with the Onefinity in feed rates and whatnot, but it's surprising me with what I can do with it.
Yeah. Oh no, Chris, he done. Look, it's missing. The Prover's gone. Like it's at Klein's house now. Which now I will say this: I've got supposed to be getting the 6050 uh, that Steve's got. I'm gonna wire mine a little different, run mine a little different because I don't really want to copy Steve. So I'm gonna do mine a little similar, but just a little flavor. I'm gonna take all of the relays and everything off of my 4040 because I've got the automatic chip collection set up on it, and I've got the automatic router power on set up on it and everything. I'm gonna take all those relays off of that one, And I don't know if you can see, I actually added my offline controller to it. See there? So it's got the offline controller on it now, so that I can move it or put it somewhere else if needed. And I've been practicing sending files to G code and using the controller and sending them that way, trying to prepare for the day that I get me a bigger CNC. So that's where I'm at on that. But the 6050, I'm hoping all of my relays and stuff, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't work. All I need is a DC input to trigger them. Because the way it works is the DC input to the spindle triggers the relay for the spindle, which turns the router on. And then when the router turns on, I've got it plugged into a dust collection system relay, which cuts the dust collection on. So it's just kind of like spindle cuts on and everything's going. And I'm just going to take those relays off of that one and put them on the new one. And I guess I want to hide that one somewhere as a spare for now. Because Clyde's got the other one. It's like I said, I got a vacant spot right there. So, but it was neat. Matter of fact, I got some pictures right here, and video. So I'll show you this right quick. Let me get I don't move my buttons around. But this is the little Prover. This is when we were in here, and we did one that was oak. This is the little piece of oak off of that redwood that I was milling the other day. This is some of the first wood I milled off of it. We did a flag with it using the offline controller, uploaded it, whole 9 yards. And I've learned too that I can do like, one G code for one bit, one G code for the next bit. Makes it a little easier to keep up with everything. So that's what I was doing. I had one that was an in mill pass, and then one that was a V bit pass that I ran. So we did that, and then this is what we end up. The second time we made one, we did it with his logo on a piece of scrap pine, and considered it was scrap pine. I think it done a really good job. I mean, I was impressed with the accuracy of it. So then today I organized my wife's makeup drawer with a box. Now I got to go back and remove some stuff because this was a prototype. But yeah, just been out here goofing off, guys. And just goofing off, making stuff, having a good old time. I got sawdust in my eye.
Yeah, that's why I want to make sure I get the 6050 into an enclosure as well as some better dust collection for it. But because that does these machines can kick up some chips, and then inevitably with that some sawdust. It's not good to breathe in or get in your eyes. So, but yeah. Well, we got an early question here from Brian. It's got an IKEA Pro laser. There's a connector below the Wi-Fi antenna. It doesn't seem to connect to anything. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, and I think that's they don't specify what it's for. There's nothing that you need to worry about right now. It may be something that they attach accessories onto in the future, but it just kind of hangs out there and does nothing for you right now. So don't worry about it. Go ahead and enjoy your new laser and laser on with it. And the Wi-Fi on that one too is just, I believe, your typical. You can connect an app to it, but the device connects to the laser versus connecting the laser to your Wi-Fi. So unfortunately, you can't. Some of them will allow you, like the Ortour. We create some of the X tools will connect to your wireless, and then you can get various apps to connect to them. But that one just acts as its own router.
Yeah. I'll try to go through the comments here and catch up on them. Welcome, Brandon. He said he just submitted for the map. I don't know when the last time we updated that was. But
I just updated the map right before we went live. So
cool.
And I see there's a couple extra entries, so I'll go ahead and try to update it again. So if you aren't aware, we do have a viewer map. I believe it's linked down below both of our descriptions on most of the areas we're streaming this to. You can go ahead and fill out that form, drop in name, username, whatever you want. And it doesn't have to be your exact address, but maybe your city, state, or something that Google Maps will recognize. It'll drop a pin on the map for you and let everybody kind of see where we all are.
Yeah, Chris or Brian, I hate to disappoint you, bro. I don't know that there's gonna be any dancing tonight. Sorry, sir. Yeah, I mean, y'all had to live in that moment for a while. Uh, ta-ta-ta. No, Victor's talking about I got to dance every week. That was a rare occurrence. We hit 300 people in that one. If we hit 400 in a live, y'all might get to see it again if we can make 400. So if y'all can figure out how to make that happen, there you go. There's your challenge if you choose to accept it. Uh,
Yeah.
but maybe we can. Maybe we can get 400 in 2024. Well, we hit
Oh, I think
300
so.
the other day. That was impressive.
We'll figure out a way to do it. But Samuel's asking what software we use for video editing for YouTube, and I believe both of us are using Adobe Premiere Rush. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's the lighter version of Premiere, a lot less hassles, but it does enough for us. We try to not be too overly produced with our videos.
Yeah, I just like to clean them up and get some of the, this the moving around and stuff like that out. I mean, I don't try to go too elaborate, adding effects and stuff like that to it. It does everything I need it to. Before that, I used an iPad with iMovie, which was very limited. I will say Rush is a lot better. Uh, they giving you a hard time about your washed out look over there.
I have this very white wall right on the back side of me here because I've been cleaning out this section. There's just nothing there, so I try to balance it out as best I can. But it's either really
Yeah.
dark or I get too much light. So
Yeah, well, a lot of times too is when you buy these webcams and like I'm using an Elgato, and I have a Logitech that I can use over here as well. But a lot of the so like that's the Logitech, and the Logitech it's going to be a little more washed out because it's just the way they work. My Elgato is more designed to be like dialed in to settings, but you have to turn the auto bright off and have to set the warmth of the light and all that. It's kind of complicated to get the color just right. But yeah, it's the like I said, that's the Logitech. So mine would be the same way or similar if I was using it all the time. But I just use that one for like putting places when I'm making video. Uh, yeah, Jack, VCarve's handy is very very versatile, but I'm still having to learn, especially with that 3030. I didn't use it that much, and so the feeds I broke two 1/8 inch end mills trying to go too fast in that red oak, and so there's a learning curve for me, especially with these new machines when they come in. I'm getting better at it, but there's settings in VCarve I didn't know that existed, and it messed me up. Still trying to go through comments.
well, here's one for you. ETLC is asking any ideas what to offer area real estate businesses that might get reoccurring business.
It really depends on what. It depends on what's hot in the area. I mean, each area is different. Like up there where Steve's at, they don't know what a stove cover is. Down here, we sell them like hotcakes. So I mean, it's going to be different. Cutting boards, charcuterie boards, anything customized for the purchaser of the house is usually a good thing. But
Yeah, I mean, I know what they are. I just don't.
well,
think
I'll
they
tell
make
you this. I
any
do know
sense.
this. I do know this. If there are realtors in your area, you know the signs that they use that have the carriage bolts that go through it, and it's basically like a stake. A buddy of mine makes stakes for realtor signs and makes a pretty good living off of it, or a pretty good little kick off of it, because it's basically just a piece of like 3/4 inch thick pine, and they're like 3 foot long, and he puts them on. He puts the wood on a CNC and cuts them out with the CNC and puts the little holes and the slots for the wing nuts and everything, and paints them white and sells them in bundles. So, I mean, there's always you can find things.
Well, I think what goes well fairly universally is, cutting boards or charcuterie boards, serving board kind of things, where you can put the realtor's name like on one side, and then maybe on the other side it'll say, the client's name or welcome home, whatever, that they can personalize out, and that tends to be fairly universal of a housewarming gift for realtors. So what I would do is maybe just find one that you can afford to offer up to the realtor. Try to find if they've got a logo of their own, and maybe put that down in the corner or something, and then also tell them what else you can do. You know, just be ready
Yeah.
to give that away to them as kind of your sample, showing them what you can do. And then they're going to talk to their realtor friends. So might not be the
Yeah, and
first
make
one or the
sure.
second one, but eventually,
Yeah,
you're probably going to run into one that's going to appreciate that.
yeah. Especially make sure you have access to whatever materials like readily available, whatever you use, because you'll be like me. All of a sudden, your orders exceed being able to get materials. You're having to go from store to store to store to try to find it. But I've gotten out to where I just stock up. I've got 10 hobby panels out there, enough to make 20 stove covers. So if I do need some and go to get them and they don't have them, I got a pretty good supply backed up. Uh, what speed is that spindle? The one that's on that machine that me and Klein used today is the 300-watt spindle. I think it's got the ER11 collet. It's the same one that's on the 6050, which
Mhm.
surprised me because on that little machine, man, it was doing a really good job of those 1/8 bits. The speeds were surprisingly fast. Uh, so I think that was, yeah, it was just a 300-watt. I think that's the biggest one that Genmitsu sells unless you go with a router. Uh, I've
Yeah, that's the
seen
same.
claims of a 500, but I hadn't seen the spindle yet.
That's the same one that comes on the 6050. And you're right, it works pretty well on the 1/8 bits, but you're gonna, anything big is gonna take a while in that. I did swap mine out with a 1/4 inch collet in that ER11, and you got to go pretty slow. And so that's where I've tossed the Bauer in for now. We'll see how it goes. It's working okay. Like I say, I've noticed a few times where the speed has to settle in a little bit, but it's definitely an upgrade over that 300-watt spindle. So
Yeah, well, I've actually contemplated going ahead and get me like a 1.2 kW water cooled spindle because there's a rumor that I may not be using the Mon port anymore. And I was thinking to myself, that chiller I bought for that Mon port would actually work for a spindle too. So I could technically put a water cooled spindle on the machine and then just set the chiller up on a relay with the dust collection so that it would cut on with the spindle and use that chiller to cool a CNC because the little pumps that I've been seeing with the CNCs are smaller than what I got for the Mon port. So I was like, yeah, I can repurpose that. So we're gonna figure it out. Like I said, I got to figure out what I'm gonna do. But for right now, the 6050 is probably gonna be my bigger CNC for a while until I can get past tax season and all that kind of stuff and figure it out. Da, da, da.
So Jody's asking, how cold do you allow your room to become when using your laser? Out in the workshop, there's no heat until turn the propane heater on. Well, it doesn't get that cold down by you, so I can answer this one. Uh, uh, I've not when there's a difference between what I'll let it get down to versus what I'll run it at, and it also is going to depend on the laser. With the diodes, they most of them are saying like 40 to 50 degrees is your minimum. They will technically work below that. What you start running into with the risk is um, you get some condensation on there, and you also have to make sure your mechanicals are still going to move smoothly, depending on what type of rails or rollers and belts, things like that. With the CO2, it's far more concern of your liquid cooling in that tube for most of these hobby grade ones. You want to keep that obviously above freezing, but then also they're going to have a higher heat differential with that tube. You can get a lot of condensation in there, and then you can get high voltage arcing from the tube and connectors to the frame and such, and it becomes somewhat dangerous. So you want to be cautious of that. You also have to keep in mind, you're running it with computers and such, and they don't like necessarily going from hot to cold and starting up. So as far as comfort wise, I try to keep my shop above 50 no matter when I'm working in it. If I'm dealing with glues, a lot of them need to be at definitely above 50, more like 55 to 60 anyway, and it's just not comfortable. But I will let the shop cool down if I'm not going to be out here for a few days and get into those 40s, just because it's not worth spending money to keep it warm if I'm not out here per se. It's not going to hurt anything, but then it does have to warm back up. I may do a torture test this winter on a diode laser, and if we get some cold days, I'll stick it outside and see how well it works. But I'll still have to be able to tolerate that myself. And if it's really usually up here we get cold and wind, so if it's really windy, I'm not going to do that. But if we get a calm, really cold day, maybe I'll run some wires outside, do a torture test on one of my older diodes, and see what happens.
There you go, Steve.
We got 73.4.
But look at that bottom part. That's what's important. 32.2% humidity. Now, up until this past year, that was not possible out here. Up until this past year, no, see, no, sir. See, you drug your feet all summer and talked about getting a mini split and didn't. I am benefiting from the mini split. You out there with cold feet. But yeah, the last year I actually did run diode lasers out here, and I didn't have any heat, and so if you watched any of my videos prior to this summer, there was no climate control in here. That's why in some of my videos I look like I'm freezing to death, and some of my videos I was sweating. Was because it was, if it was hot outside, it was hot in here. Usually hotter in here, and the cold same way. But now that I've got the mini split in and I've got most of the building insulated, it's manageable now. Like I said, it's 73 in here now. I think this morning when I got out here, it was 64, 65. Because it got a little cooler overnight, and I didn't have anything circulating the air and everything. So it's a little different, But but yeah, you gotta get your heat fixed. that's bad.
Yeah, for the lasers, ideal temperature is right around 70. Honestly, if my workshop was 70 the whole time, I'd probably be fairly happy, but even that can get a little warm at times. So 65 to 75 is a good range that if I could just find that place that stays that year round, that'd be awesome. But
yeah. Gerard, that was the 3030 ProVerb Max. It's beefy. Like it's really strong as far as the frame and everything. It's the work area is kind of small on it. That's why I never really used it a lot, because the stuff I do is a little bit bigger. But it's a stout built. So, but it was a good machine. I underestimated it until we really went to cranking it up. When I was trying to incline on how to use it, I started, just running some crazy speeds, and I was like, wow, it done a good job.
Yeah, I've been slowly ramping up the speed on the 6050 to and balancing it with the router speed on that Bauer. It's holding its own.
Andy's wanting to know about I guess he's talking about the marker system that X-Tool uses. I don't know how easy that would be for Lightburn to adapt just for one machine. I'm gonna be honest with you. If I was Lightburn and it was going to be too labor intensive just to support one machine, which a year from now may be, obsolete, I don't know how much work I'd put into that if I were them. So, I mean, what do you think, Steve?
Yeah, that's there's a number of these lasers coming out that have kind of unique features to them, and they're all saying Lightburn compatible, and that means various different things. And so I'm sure Lightburn's going to have to pick and choose which ones they're actually going to work on or not, because like you mentioned, for one or two lasers, on a feature that doesn't look like it might take on elsewhere, it's that's a lot of development time for them. So and they have other features they're wanting to work on, and they got their MillMage software they're currently working on quite a bit too. So it'll be interesting to see. I would love for them to stay compatible with more lasers. I appreciate the fact though that Xtools continued to develop their software to where it doesn't feel quite so handicapped when you do have to use it to gain those features. Back a year and a half ago, it was torture jumping from Lightburn back into LaserBox Basic, but they've really stepped it up with XCS. We came out with theirs. It's very much similar. And I believe they're coming out with their next version maybe later this week to incorporate some of the features that people have been asking about, some fixes and some additional features. So as long as the companies continue to develop their software, I'll give them a bit of a pass on it until they fail or it really hinders the machine. So
yeah. Brian's asking about my camera. This is the Elgato face cam, and I'll kind of show you the setup. And somebody else says that seems like the equipment for video production is its own rabbit hole, and that is absolutely true. But you can see this is my little workstation right here, and of course the Elgato mic. I've got the face cam. You got to have a light. I got my Stream Deck over here. And then, of course, I got all kind of charging and battery equipment and stuff up here for the other cameras. And that's kind of the heads-up display, so to speak, here at the Clack Shack command station. And it is a lot of money. I mean, I know the camera that me and Steve both use for our long-form videos when we're not in front of a computer. We both use the Sony ZV-1, and that thing will hurt your feelings when you buy it, but it's one of those things that there's not a really good substitute out there that can do the quality that it does at that price. I mean, you get really good quality, and then you got to learn how to work it, and that's a whole another rabbit hole. But yeah, it gets expensive. It really does. So
well, I come from a photography background somewhat. My dad was big into photography back in the film days, and so it was kind of a hobby of ours as I was growing up. For a while, I was actually a regional editor for a hobby-based magazine that was had subscribers all over the world, and so I did a lot of writing, a lot of photography for that as well. My wife's very much into photography. So this camera was actually less expensive than I've spent on a number of them, but it's a lot more expensive than just a webcam or, your typical point and shoot. So yeah, you're right. You choke a little bit on that, but yeah, it's a rabbit hole. You and I are always talking about different things. As a matter of fact, I've got a brand new mic mixer board and boom on order just for out here, because I have one down in my office for other things I've been doing, but I want to leave that there and have something out here now that I'm kind of getting a little more settled into this being a somewhat fixed spot in my shop that I'll dedicate to this. But yeah,
you got to have two of everything now. So which you started your own little command terminal out there in the shop too, haven't you?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Video the other day, so
that's what I'm talking about and having more fixed cameras here, maybe even swapping out my laptop for a desktop that just sits out here. But I'm running up against that Lightburn limit of 3 devices. So I've got my office computer where I do a lot of my design work. I've got my laptop here that I bring out to do working on these machines, and then I've got a desktop down in my basement work area that all have Lightburn on it. Well, I either need to move my computer out of my office and into my workshop down there, replace that one to put a permanent one out here, because I'd also want to keep it on the laptops. It's just first world problems, I guess, when trying to do a lot of this content creation in multiple machines. So
Yeah, well, somebody was asking a while ago, and Lori's wanting to know if you're interested in playing with the or buying the Lasermatic. And I'm just going to step out and say this for you. It's hard. It's hard for either. Whoa, it's hard for either one of us to really. It's if I had to some of the machines. I'm gonna be honest with you. I tend to get content with what I have, but I mean the Lasermatic is a good machine. But like I said, if I've already got all these other machines, I don't know that I would have. You know, it's I got to try it. I like it, and if I had to like pick, start throwing machines out the window or whatever, then there definitely is an order of which ones would go first. But we're blessed in the fact that we get to try stuff a lot of times without having to step out and take that risk of purchasing it. Now, like the first several machines I bought, yeah, that was a leap of faith because I didn't have anybody on YouTube that I trusted to tell me other than Steve because Steve was on YouTube at the time. And so you just kind of got to go, okay, this guy seems trustworthy. He says it's a good machine. I'm going to buy it. And so that's one reason why I started actually reviewing some of these machines was so that I would know. I mean, is this the best machine that I bought, or are other machines better? And better is a matter of perspective when it comes to machines, because like somebody asked me earlier, where is your uh, longer B1? Well, it's right there. It's in my secondary enclosure, my small, square enclosure. But at the same time, Enclosure Zilla is rocking a 800 by 400 or 850 by 400 workspace now. So it's a matter of perspective. If you need a large work area, this is the machine you go with. If you don't need a large work area, you want something more affordable, this may be the option. So it's always a matter of perspective. And people try to nail me down. Hey, which is the best laser? Well, it depends on your situation. The best laser may be the $300 one if your situation is that you don't want to spend a whole lot of money. That might not be the best performing laser, but it may be the best one for you. So those are all things to consider when getting in this rabbit hole. Kind of like the CNCs. I'm having to learn these smaller CNCs and work my way up because I want to know what it is that I want from a CNC before I go, buy a bunch of machine that I'm not going to use. So there's a whole lot of. It's probably my dogs, and they're not celebrating the holidays. The deer are moving. I actually could have killed a buck this morning. He walked through my backyard, but they're not coon dogs. They're both shepherds. So about 80
Yeah,
pounds
well,
apiece.
I mean, I going back to that question, I'd love to get some experience on one. I've heard a lot of good things about them, um, but you kind of hit it on the head there. I you get used to, or you get somewhat content with what you have, and until something pushes that, you find something, you struggle to do something. You need a bigger work area. You can't cut through a material, something like that. Um, I don't find myself a need to look at other machines, but yeah, we're both been blessed with
Yeah.
opportunities to be able to do a number of reviews, and I try to take that and put forward as much information I can about each machine. I mean, hopefully my video reviews come across as here is what the advertised specs are. I'm going to do my best to test those out, and any features, safety features, whatever, try to test those out to give people an idea of here's what it's supposed to do, here's how it does in some real life world situations that I run them through. And again, I don't like to compare them because they all have their pluses and minuses. I try to just put forward this is what it does well, this is what I think it could do better. So from that realm, yes, I would love to try one out. I would like to have some experience with it to speak to that. But there's a lot of things you can do with any laser if you're willing to spend the time to make fixtures, jigs, um, add certain tools to it or not. And for some people, that might be having to buy the $300-400 laser and work it up. For others, they can buy an all-in-one package like that. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, I would love to try one out, but with what I've got going on right now, and I'm trying to focus a bit more on projects right now than reviews at the time. Just for my sake, I need to get the creative juices flowing again, rather than the scientific investigating machines and such. You and I both kind of had a slew of those, so would love to, but also not. I'm not going out of my way right now to seek out certain machines, unless and we've all kind of put this asterisk on it, unless something new and unique hits us and we
Well,
kind of, hey, I really want
well,
to try
that's been both of our rules for several weeks and several months, but they keep coming out with new cool
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, they do.
Somebody's asking. I saw the question. I can't find it. The guys, I'm trying to scroll these questions, but it is tough to keep up. Somebody asked the question, which would I prefer, the X2 D1 Pro or the MK2? Both in their stock formation, the MK2 is a better machine in my opinion, because of they're basically the same work area, but this machine does come with the enclosure. It does come with the fan. It does come with the camera. It has the honeycomb built on the peg so that you can align stuff with it really really well. It's a lot sturdier built. This one has linear rails. The X still doesn't. They still use the little wheels with the steel rods, which aren't bad. But if I had to pick between those two machines, like if I had to throw one away, I would keep the Rolly. I mean, that's the best I can tell you on that, because or the Lasermatic, yeah, whatever. But it's there's things about the build quality that I like about this one better. I do also like the fact that the the chuck sits in the bottom of the machine, has pegs to hold it in place. There's a lot of things engineering wise that they put into this machine that if it was compared to a 20-watt D1, yes, I would pick it all day long. Now, like I said, it's not fair to compare this machine for what I do. It's not fair to compare that machine to the Atom Stack X40, because you're comparing. That's like comparing a Prius and a F-150. It's not. They're not built to do the same things. Because this machine has a smaller work area, and it's a 30 watt, which will do most anything you want to do. But when it comes to like today, when I was ripping out that thing for the drawer in there, it took 15 minutes. That was a full 850 by 400 cut with multiple, finger tabs and all that, and it was 15 minutes. It was done in this enclosure, and it was all in one piece. Those things I made for the drawer in there, I couldn't have cut it on that one because the work area is not big enough, because the drawers are, 2 foot deep. So each machine, like I said, you strengths and weaknesses. I have 2 blinking light signs. I only got 1 sign. That's a TV. That's a TV. Yeah, I've got it. I know. I played it pretty slick. I've got it set up. It does a slideshow, but that's actually the TV that I use as like when I'm doing videos. This is a TV. I can turn it around and move it around. That's a cat behind the TV. But that's actually a mirror sign. That's got this. It was in that 12-inch mirror frame video that I did. But no, Brian, I'm not putting a Ventari sign back there. I don't need one of those. I got some stickers. He left some stickers here when he came.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get enough time alone in the shop. I would have just randomly stuck them places for you to find. So ETLC is asking in the WeCreate software, when you load the Lightburn G code, it asks what thickness the material is. If I'm using a square mason jar, do I need to measure the area from top to bottom while laying on its side? What it's really trying to get at is where's the top of the material in relation to the bed. So yes, you would want to basically take the total thickness of the jar as it's laying down. So it knows how far up off of that to focus. And yeah, it says, so it doesn't run its autofocus operation then. It doesn't do anything to sense where the material is. It's in Lightburn. You tell it, burn this thing at these coordinates with these settings, and then all you do in WeCreate is say, move the laser to this height based off of this material thickness. So you want to make sure you get that right.
Brian, yeah, that the L2 died, and I can't get them to. I wanted to try to fix it, but they were just like not enthused about trying to fix it. Pretty sure the controller either went bad or it's got a bad solder joint on it. But it's hanging up there, but it's inoperable, so it's just kind of hanging there for now. If I ever have a machine like get tore up, I plan on Frankensteining it, maybe taking a controller out of something else and putting into it and try to make it work. But yeah, they that Acer went the wrong way with, in my opinion, with that. The P20 was, to me, was a better machine than the L2 was for what I do.
Yeah. Yeah. For me right now, if I was looking for the perfect laser, diode laser for me, I would probably be leaning towards that Atom Stack X40. It's got
Yeah,
I like that wider
it's a
layout. It's got the drag chains on there. It's a 40-watt module, which is pretty good because a lot of what I do is cutting. And it's got auto air, right?
Well,
But
it's got auto air, but it uses the pump, but it's got a relay. But with a little bit of electrical wiring and a pigtail, you can actually put a 24-volt relay on it and use shop air as well. So yeah, it's auto air whether you use
it's got
the
the
pump
controller
or
with
shop air.
the M7 M8. You want to tinker, you can. Otherwise, it's got the on off. But the focus is still manual, right?
But now it's got a really cool like little twist adjustment that looks to me, I'm gonna be honest with you, looking at it, it looks to me like they plan on coming out with a automatic Z-axis, because not only is there a pin sticking up that has like a knurled knob on it that's kind of long, but there's two screw holes to the right and left of it, like where you could set a stepper down there and put a couple screws in it. So I'm thinking that there may be a Auto Z kit coming for it in the future.
Yeah.
I even tinkered around with maybe robbing the one off the Niji and seeing if I could make it work. But I don't. The Z's not important to me.
Right.
I set the focus. I set the focus, and this thing I will tell you too. I raised the focus up on this thing, trying to see how high I could go before the cutting power diminished. And like I had a beam like an inch long from the cone to the material, and it was still cutting it. So it's very forgiving if you elevate the focus a little high on it.
Yeah, the powered Z is not. Honestly, if they don't do it right, I'd much rather they leave it out.
Agreed.
But having a good solid rail system and limit switches that's accurate and consistent, having that cable management out of the way, and having that orientation the way that Atom Stack is, that to me would be probably more the laser I would be looking at right now. A camera isn't a deal breaker for me because you and I have put them on. As long as I can add it through Lightbird, I'd be okay with that. It's nice when they're integrated, but it's not a deal breaker for me. So that honestly, I think would be one I'd be more excited about right now than the Lasermatic.
Oh, I was extremely excited. The only letdown with the X40 is it wouldn't have taken a whole lot more work for them to have added linear rails to the X-axis. So right now it still has the traditional roller wheels, the rubber wheels on the X, but it has linears on the Y. Now you can run the Y-axis a lot faster because of the linear rails, but I kind of wish they'd have went ahead and you're looking at the machine, I can see exactly how they could have done it and made it work really easy, but I wish they'd have went ahead and added the linear rails to the X as well.
That's not a deal breaker for me.
But it would have made it run so much faster.
Well, they can and they can't. You get some cheap linear rails in there, and they're gonna bind up faster. They're gonna cause more issues.
Well, I'll tell you, their factory settings, the Y-axis on this machine is throttled twice as high as the X. So from their research, they've decided to back down the X-axis speeds a lot less than the Y.
Yeah, and it's true on a lot of them, and especially when you've got the dual. You've got two points that you're worrying about instead of just the one going across side to side. Um,
Yeah.
but linear rails are nice, but when done poorly, they can cause you more issues than those rollers and belts. So
Yeah.
that's and a lot of times these machines are not, they're pinching the pennies to get them down as cheap as they can. So that's
Yeah.
where
But
I'll give them a pass on that.
yeah, but like I said, it's a beast. It's definitely not a bad machine. Echo, turn on Enclosure Zilla.
Okay.
But yeah, hang on, I'm gonna get this thing fired up here and woo.
So
Uh-huh.
to answer Robert's question here, while you're doing that, yeah, if you're looking to cut clear acrylic, you definitely a CO2 laser is going to be really what you're looking for. It's always possible with a CNC router, or you could get a water jet, things like that. But CO2 laser is probably going to be the route you're going to want to go for that.
Da, 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 da. Here we go. All right, here we are. All right. So one
And
thing that I
John,
did do,
hello
what,
from St. James, just down the road from me. All right, you're good to go.
yeah, one thing that I did do the other day too is when I reconfigured my enclosure, I have went in here and let's see, cuts and layers, 12. Make sure nothing changed. Okay, we're good. 16. Let's change that to 16 by 16. And one thing that I did do is I did a realignment on my camera as well. So let me put y'all over on the camera so you can see this. And here we go. Woo! Look at that. Ain't that beautiful? Look at that right there, guys. That's just, it's nice. Now watch this. Updated the overlay, right? You see that? Updated overlay. I have been able to achieve accuracy with my camera that I have not been able to achieve before. So I thought that was pretty awesome. Check that out. That's close right there. That's a 16 millimeter circle. So, I mean, that's pretty darn close as far as placement goes. And and this is actually that stubborn material that I accidentally bought that time, but it cuts it really nice, even at 12 millimeters a second. So I just thought I'd flex with the X40 there for a second, Steve. Since you're thinking about getting one, I thought that might be a good demonstration for you there. But it does do things that other machines can't. Like I said, it's a good machine. I like it. But now you've got to have the room to house it. This is not a machine that if you're putting it up on the weekends and having to put it in a closet, this is not the machine you want for that. Get you one of these and put it on a roller, like that little roll around cart or something. Don't do that. It's too big. Because this thing takes up a 48. It's 48 by 32, I think is what this enclosure is, and it fills it up. So, yeah. Echo, turn off Enclosure Zilla.
Sorry, I didn't find a group or device named Closet Light.
Oh, Echo. Echo, turn off Enclosure Zilla.
Sorry, I didn't find a
Oh,
group
Echo's
or
gonna
device
get
named
fired.
Closet Light.
It's revolting. Got to pay your employees more.
Echo, turn off Enclosure Zilla.
Okay.
Jesus. But yeah, it's I just didn't want that fan running all day. It's a good machine. Like I said, I think you would like it, and maybe you can get one. I really hope you can.
Well, I'm definitely going to have to build a bigger enclosure, which I've been planning on anyway. So,
Well, I know there's some blueprints that gives you a good idea of how big this machine is because it fills it up, but it is big enough.
well, and I've been I've been thinking about that, and actually, rather than reinvent the wheel or try to extend mine, I may just take yours and do my own build on it. Obviously, a few things may be a little bit different, and just put that out there as kind of. I know a lot of people ask you about your plans, but maybe I could do like a build guide on it or something. So, like a video build guide or something. But
Yeah, the only thing, and this was because it kind of just happened that way because I already had an exhaust port in the wall, so I put the exhaust in the middle. And if you look now, I actually did get me. You see that little silver like dryer vent grate back there on the back? I actually did upgrade that. I put one on the inside for the intake and one on the outside for the exhaust. And you can tell when I turn it on. Echo, turn on Enclosure, Zilla. Oh, Echo, you're gonna get fired. Echo, turn on Enclosure Zilla.
Okay.
See the vents open?
mm-hmm.
Okay, so now instead of my little homemade job, I've actually got a legitimate like grate in there, so that when I turn the when I open the lid though, you'll notice it closes because it's pulling shop air. But now it's pulling outside air. So it's a little different than most other people's enclosures, but it works. Echo, turn off Enclosure Zilla. Try to speak real pop.
Okay.
Oh, you just got to. It don't understand redneck. How in the world they sell it down here in Alabama? They don't understand redneck. But yeah, that's it's like I said. I am content right now with this enclosure. The only thing I want to do is I want to caulk it and paint it. I've been waiting until I till I worked all my little bugs out, and I'm fixing to caulk it and paint it now. Trying to decide if I want to paint the inside of it this color or not.
Oof.
I think it'll be cool.
Yeah. Okay. Just be ready with some primer after that.
Great. I will say, like I said, as long as the work area is something that you're comfortable with, you can't beat the Lasermatic. I mean, it is a really, really well built, well engineered, well thought out machine, no doubt. The only limitation currently is that it is as big as it gets, and you can't make it no bigger. That's the thing that you need to consider. You can't go buy rails and slap on it. It's that size from now on. Now you could always just go get yourself a Sculpt Fun or Atom Stack or something for those type situations. But that is a really good machine, especially if you're putting it in a limited area workshop or something. No, I do not plan on extending this anymore. Not in my current shop. I do not have room. I have no need for 800 by 850. Nothing I make requires that much work area right now.
Yeah, that's a lot of space to house that laser.
Yes, and
So
I just don't see it.
Yeah, you'd need to be using that quite often. Otherwise, you're going to find that half that space is just in your way most of the time.
Yes, Brian. It's switchable from 48 watts to 24 watts. So it's technically not a 40 watt. It's closer to being a 50 watt. And if y'all remember, I told y'all we would have 50 watt lasers by the end of the year. And everybody's like, oh, no, there's no way. Because everybody was trying to get me to convert from millimeters a second to millimeters per minute. And now my machine has the same power as most CO2 machines does. So why would I want to go millimeters a minute now? Huh. There you go. I called it right. Yeah, we did have a giveaway the other day, but I don't know if I'd have to, like anything I send to Chris, I'd have to order from Amazon or somewhere to where they could ship it from a local warehouse. I can't afford to send nothing from the United States to Chris.
You'd be surprised on some of those international shipping options, but even the smaller stuff has gotten ridiculous. I used to be able to send things to Canada that were first class international. It costs the same or even less than sometimes in the U.S. But now it's pretty much, a small package is $15 on up, and good luck if it gets lost.
Well, now, Steve, in their defense, you're like 20 miles from Canada, and 3,000 miles from Texas. So
yeah,
I mean,
your math is way off on that. But okay.
I mean, you're in like South Alaska.
Okay.
Steve, I have actually considered doing that with my machines, but I'm gonna be honest with you. Just simply switching the axes would create a whole bunch of other like issues with origin, and it I don't know that it would be worth it. I'm not going to say it couldn't be done. I mean, it's electrical. You could do a lot with it, but it would just be more trouble than it would be worth, in my opinion. Oh, unless Steve wants to do it, make a video out of
Uh,
it. He said no.
yeah,
He's going to pass.
I think you'd run into too many issues trying to get that working right. So I'm glad to see a few options like Atom Stack and Niji doing that form factor without going the full 800 by 800, giving that 800 wide by 400 deep. Yeah, it works well for certain things. So. How fast is the P2 cut quarter inch? Where am I? Let's see here. I've got one of the tests.
You know what Brian's trying to do, don't you?
No, these aren't actually it. What's Brian trying to do?
He's trying to let you show off your P2 since you got all the cool toys. That's hashtag Steve gets all the cool toys.
I'd have to go back and look because I don't have this is 1/8 inch for the P2, and in millimeters a second, it's cutting through at 40.
But yeah, guys, if y'all hadn't already, hit the like, follow, share, subscribe, all those little good buttons. Like I said, I don't like to beat everybody up about it, but it does actually help. Brian, it wouldn't let me pick. I was gonna like name it Al after my alien, friend, but it won't let me pick. I had to pick Echo or Alexa, so we went with Echo.
I thought Alexa let you rename it.
It will, but I can't figure out how to name it anything but Echo or Alexa.
Oh, because
Yeah.
back in the day when I slummed on Alexa, I'm pretty sure I was able to tell it, hey computer, do whatever. So
Yeah. Well, I maybe another day. I couldn't figure it out, but I've got like everything in here wired to where I can sit here and run most of it. Oh, let's see. This cough still has not left me.
yeah, see,
ET.
I am not that close to Canada. It's a good, honestly, it's a good 5 hours to get to Canada from my place. So
Yeah, that's like me going to the Gulf, man. That's not far.
I
mean,
can
that's not
probably
far at all.
I could drive almost all the way through Iowa in 5 hours, north to south. I could probably be in Missouri before I could be in Canada. So anyway, it's a tall state.
Yeah. The bed size on this machine, somebody is asking me. I'm 400 high at 850 wide is what this machine runs. When I was looking at trying it out, I was told that it was 400 by 800, but then when I got it and got it set up in the machine settings, when it located it, it set it at 850 by 400, and so far that does appear to be the actual working size of it. So either I was misinformed, misread, or they changed it before they sent it to me. I'm not sure, but I do like the 850. I was used to having 430 with my V35, but the 30 millimeters, because you can see where I've got my stove cover sit in there. That thing that's got the clackshack.com on it is actually a jig that holds the stove covers in that spot, so that when I engrave them, I don't have to realign everything. I just drop them in there, open the file, and send it. So I have to have that work area to be able to do those. But this machine still works just fine for my stove covers. So that's the reason I have to have that, because I mean that's a lot of engraving. And like I said, with it being, I got that jig built in there. I open the file, change the text, send it. I don't have to frame. I don't have to guess. I just send it. Yeah, the new air assist from Atom Stack is different. It's a whole nother creature. It's actually got a cooling fan on it. It's this one with the X40 is different than any other air assist I've ever had.
Thad was mentioning the NRF Laser Tools plugin for SketchUp. It's worth checking out. I did watch their video on this the other day, and was very intrigued. So I think I may download that and try it myself. It allows you to kind of build your shape first, and then set your material thickness, and then set up box joints and such right within SketchUp, and then you can explode it out into a layout. So pretty cool tool. If anyone's out there is using SketchUp, go to SketchUp's YouTube channel, and they just released a video on it the other day, and might save you some time in playing around with design on some custom shapes.
Da, 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 da. Now, Minnesota's that is the I think it's called the Dot or something, but that's a 3D printed. That's a little 3D printed mount right there that was printed for it. But I just got it sitting there to do. It does like minuscule tasks, like Echo, turn off the middle lights. I think they're already off.
Okay.
Echo, turn on the middle lights.
Okay.
Echo, turn off the lights.
Okay.
Echo, turn off the air compressor.
Okay.
Yeah, so it just
Yeah.
does. It just
Half
does
our
random
audience
things.
is going nuts with their speakers right now.
Yeah. Echo, turn on the lights.
Okay.
But yeah, I've got the air compressor. I found a 30 amp controlled relay. So yeah, it's pretty cool. But I'm lazy and I like tech. What can I say? Mm, I guess I could do black and yellow. Everybody's throwing in color. I guess I'm way behind on freaking comments. Oh, I guess I could do black and yellow in my enclosure. That would match my DeWalt wall. Yes, this. All right, midnight. This is the basic reason why I work in millimeters per second. The original software that Xtool D1 shipped with was called LaserBox Basic, and by default, it was set up in millimeters per second, which I think was a carryover from the M1 because that's what they did with it. And that's what I learned how to do everything in. That's what I saved all my stuff in, and that's where my brain works. And I did not see the sense in going from a small number to a really, really big number unless you had to have, because the millimeters per minute is a really slow scale, in my opinion. The millimeters per second is a little faster, and I didn't want to change back when I got into the other machines because I felt like because everybody's like, oh no, you only use millimeters per second when you're using CO2s where you got 40 to 50 watts. And so I was like, well, we'll be at 40 to 50 watts within a year. And I think I said that in like one of our very first lives, that I could see me having a 50 watt diode in my shop by the end of the year. And 48 is very close. So it works for me. I don't see that big of a difference that I need to step down in increments of 60 instead of increments of 1, because that's really all you're doing is instead of me dropping from 100 speed to 99, I would be dropping from 600 to 540. So I mean, that's really all you're doing is just, instead of dropping increments of 1, you're dropping increments of 60. And so I don't like numbers. I don't like math. I like to keep it simple, and millimeters per second just works for me. I just, nobody can convince me why I need to swap back to millimeters per minute. Because next year, when we're sitting here with our 100 watt diodes, everybody's gonna be like, yeah, I'm cutting at 58,000 millimeters per minute. Why do you use a big number? Use a smaller number. So, I mean, it's preference, but that's just, it got started because that's what I learned how to do it with. And I just kind of stuck with it, you know?
So, and I was used to millimeters a minute or millimeters a second with my CO2, but it was confusing everybody when I would talk in that outside of Xtool. So I, jumped back to millimeters a minute just to make it more relational. But I also was coming from a world in CNC land where I was used to inches per minute. So you want to talk about a conversion
Oh, I could.
going from
Yeah.
inches a minute to, millimeters a second. It's
Yeah,
all
that's
math.
one thing I
And
will
so
say.
it really doesn't matter.
Everybody gives me a hard time about using the metric system, but I will say for somebody who's terrible with math and hates fractions, I prefer the metric system. I'm just going to be honest with you. It's simpler. I can't do fractions in my head. You can be like, I know what 1.5 inches is, but you start getting into like 3/16 and trying to convert that to a decimal, and it's just, oh my gosh, my head explodes. So I actually prefer working in the metric system when it comes to doing stuff where I'm designing down to, real fine detail. I prefer it. I mean, maybe that's un-American of me, but I think it's just I'm not good at math. So, woo. There's a question about CSC Labs. Yes, I have looked into it. I actually sent them an email, and I don't know. I like some things they're doing, but there's some things that they haven't got around to yet that I'd like to see if I'm going to spend the money on a big CNC and go through the trouble of putting it together. So I don't know. Haven't ruled them out, but they did send me. I got a quote from them and everything. But after looking at some of the things that they're doing, there's some other companies that are doing things that I like better, such as Onefinity and most recently Shapeco. I like the new Shapeco 5. The 4, wasn't crazy about, but the Shapeco 5, I like some of the build features of it. So, what about you, Steve? I mean, you look. I mean, not. I know you're. Steve's on the Onefinity boat. He's not coming off of it. Because it'd be stupid for him to, because he already has a base system that he can expand upon and stuff. So I don't blame him on that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm familiar with the long mill machines, and it's great to see what they're doing with them. But yeah, I've had my Onefinity for a few years now. Shortly after they came out, I got mine, and I've been able to upgrade it. And it anytime I need to use it, it's done what I needed to do, and I have yet to max out this size, so I don't. Um, honestly, there are times when it's just too big to work with, and that's where it's nice having this smaller benchtop one to work with as well. But no, I think they're decent machines, and would love to talk to them more and see what they do over time. Um, if I do find myself in a position where I want to swap something out, but yeah, I'm very happy with my Onefinity, and right now I'm just trying to convince myself. Well, I'm too busy with other stuff. I'm trying not to talk myself into the elite upgrade that I can do for mine.
Yeah. Another thing, and y'all asking me about my automation too. Another reason why I have Echo is when I'm over here doing something and I need to know how many millimeters 2 inches is or 3 inches is, I can just yell it across the shop at Echo. So that was one of the main reasons I got it was because it's just easier to do stuff like that than trying to, you're trying to measure something and you got a question, you just ask it. It's kind of like my assistant, my virtual assistant here in the shop. I've
Hmm.
run out of space on my 1500 by 1500. Oof. Okay. That's big, whatever that is. Well, that's what I got Echo for. I don't Siri eavesdrops too much. I mean, I can ask her too, but she eavesdrops way too much.
Yeah, if you're getting into like large signs and such, you could definitely run out of space really quickly. Or if you're really trying to do full up panels like cabinetry and such, there's another way you can run out of it. But for what I do, I'm able to break up my uh, parts into different. I wanted the wider width. I originally had the 32 by 32. Now I've got the 48 plus by 32, and I wanted that wider width just for some of like the furniture things I was doing. I didn't want to have to angle them or um, do the multiple cut layout type thing. So The tiling. That's the term I was looking for.
Yeah, I'm going to end up going with a 4x4 machine. I have all but decided that. I want to build me a 4x4 machine, and I want to come up with either some type of addition to the table to where I can have like another 2 foot or 3 foot of extensions come out with like a roller or something on them for holding up the other end of the material. Because I got thinking about it, you could technically do a whole 8-foot sheet as long as you index it. And I know Onefinity started using indexing too now, hadn't it? I know the X-Carve allows you to index with easel.
Well,
And
that's all just in the software.
yeah.
So
And with a Masso controller, I'm pretty sure they added indexing and everything. But the new
you can do it on mine as well.
Shape
You can do it through VCarve.
Oh, that's right. It is in VCarve. But the new Shapeco does it too. So it's like, no matter what I get, I want to get a 4 foot by 4 foot, because literally there's like $300 or $400, $600 in price difference between the 2 foot by 4 foot and the 4 foot by 4 foot. So
I mean,
it just makes sense if I can, as long as I have the room for it, which I'm getting there.
You could do tiling on your little 40/40 if you needed to. You just need 2 holes and reference points. So
Yeah, but that'd be a pain.
yeah.
That'd be a real pain with the 40/40. Yeah, I haven't played with that yet. Jack, I mean, they all smart devices listen. I mean, if you don't want to be listened to, you just need not have internet. Oh, but yeah,
Your phone is your worst enemy on that.
Well, I got like a lot of my stuff turned off, but I mean, you can't turn it all off.
Right.
Yeah, where can you go to practice math on New Year's? Not here. I'm not good at math at all. That's why I avoid it like the plague. But anyway, guys, if you hadn't already, hit the likes, follow, subscribe, thumbs up. Laser Engraver community page is also available. And stick yourself on the map so that Steve can update it after the live's over with, and we can see a little more of the footprint.
Yep, just doing a refresh on it right now. So if you've dropped your pin in during the show, hopefully it should be showing up now.
Yeah, I think this may be my new assembly tray. Put all those screws and stuff in. I think that'd be made good for that. We're gonna throw it back into CNC and I don't know, drill some holes in it, use it as like a bit collet holder thing. But it was just a random piece of wood. I'm trying to get rid of some of the scrap wood. That's why I made those 2 flags over there out of scrap wood, and we made Klein 2 flags today out of scrap wood. Because if I don't get rid of this scrap, when I do bring that red oak down from the mill, I'm not gonna have anywhere to put it. So, see, my cats. I don't know that would work. These things eat way too much. I mean, I guess you could. You have to waterproof it.
Yep.
But y'all see my laser/CNC project video? That was I'm waiting on my magnets to get here. Ultimate fail on my magnets. They're way too weak. But yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I've.
That's the laser cut one. And then you got this one, which is a CNC cut one. So like in the event that you were to like give your wife a ring or a necklace or earrings or whatever, you could make a custom little box, engrave whatever you wanted to on the front of it, and voila. But I gotta get some stronger magnets. No, that's a rattle can.
I have a bunch of these. They're 6mm by 3mm magnets, and so they work really well in both 1/8 inch material and 1/4 inch material, and they're strong enough to do what you're asking, but they're only about 6mm or roughly 1/4 inch in diameter. So
yeah, I ordered a big old box of different size magnets, But yeah, this is actually the same file. I made it in Lightburn and then exported the SVG over to the CNC. That was a pretty neat little video. I had fun with it. I've been studying up on my CNC stuff lately, so that's kind of why everything I've done for the past couple of weeks, well, not everything, but a lot of what I've done has been CNC based. Trying to get more acquainted with it. Bobby, the link to the map should be on my YouTube channel. I don't see Facebook doesn't let you put stuff in the description like YouTube does. Now, if you go to the laser engraver community page, there's links to that map in there. If you're on Facebook. Weir says he's got a old Techno CNC. I don't know what that is.
I will try to drop the link in here, and hopefully it doesn't muck up my page. But that's the link to the form that you can fill out, and try to grab the map as well. Otherwise, yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, I think we both have it in the description.
Yeah, it's in the description of YouTube, but Facebook's weird. It won't let you put them in there. But questions, comments, concerns, guys? Y'all got awful quiet. Too many. I know what it is. Y'all sitting around sipping on something, waiting on the New Year to get here. I can't sip on nothing. I'm on antibiotics for this chest thing I got going. And I need my antibiotics to work because whatever it is I have was pretty bad because I don't usually have like chest congestion like I've had. But man, it whooped me. So I'm trying not to catch pneumonia from it.
So Eddie's asking about how helpful would AutoCAD be in CNC designing? If you're used to it, definitely would be useful. And that's kind of the nice thing with a lot of the softwares, as long as you can export in a vector. So SVG, DXF, Adobe Illustrator, things like that. A lot of them will import that. So if you're used to designing in a piece of software and it'll export in that format, go ahead, do your designing in there, then bring your shape into Lightburn or VCarve or Easel or whatever software you're using for your machine, and then set up your basically your operations on the various lines from there. I do that a lot with both AutoCAD and SketchUp. Need to get myself to focus on the project and learn Fusion as well. But if I wouldn't necessarily go and learn AutoCAD if you haven't used it already. But if you're coming from that and you have a good understanding and you're comfortable in there, definitely do your design, export it into the other one, and just treat the control software for your job operations, not so much design. And Samuel is asking this: best finish for coasters. Depends on the type of coaster, and of course, personal preference, customer preference, things like that. But on slate coasters, you do get a better contrast if you pre-finish them. And I don't like the glossy wet look myself, so I try to go with more of a satin finish on that, and then it'll give me that contrast without the coaster looking kind of wet or plasticky. Some people might like that darker wet look on the slate as well, but it's just not for me. But definitely pre-applying that before you do the engraving will give a better contrast to it. Now, people will argue that you're taking away the absorption properties of slate. Slate doesn't absorb that much water to begin with, but you will have more of a pooling effect than a damp effect on the slate. So, but a lot of people make glass coasters that have zero absorption. So I think these are kind of bridging that functional and decorative piece.
Yeah, somebody was saying, talking about CAD software, just for the record, I do use CAD software for certain things. I had to learn how to do that for the 3D printer. and this is where I designed my little camera mount that I sell and that I use in the shop here. But I haven't got the CNCs all set up correctly yet. But this was just kind of, I had to learn it to build stuff for 3D printing, and I'm getting better at it, but I still got a ways to go as far as setting up the tool paths and stuff like that for the CNCs. I still haven't mastered that part. I can get it set up for 3D printing, which is because I just export a STL. But yeah, I like I like Fusion because it does work with CNCs, 3D printers, and even lasers. So I like using it to design. I've got to get better. I've got to stop everything and just sit down and learn more about it because I'm not the best at it, but I have designed some small stuff that worked. I even designed a hinge that actually, my hinges actually, you print them without having to put them together, and they actually work. Now they're made out of PLA, so I wouldn't use them on anything too important, but yeah, I do a lot of little designs. Somebody asked me if my whistle actually worked the other day. It does. That's why Brandy brought it out here and put it in the shop. I used to blow it in the house.
So we'll see if these show up. This is the difference between a pre-finished with satin. So it's got just a little bit of sheen to it, where this one is just straight slate. So that's where, you get a little more contrast between the two. As a matter of fact, this one was sanded first and then finished with satin polyurethane.
Yeah, Fusion 360 is really good, but they like it, and I'm trying I'm trying to slim down some of my software selection, to be honest with you, because between Fusion and Vectric or VCarve, I'm wanting to get rid of Easel because Easel, even though it is very simple and it was a blessing starting out because it made CNC and fun because it was easy, it doesn't have the capabilities that VCarve has when it comes to doing putting the lathe on the CNC and stuff like that, doing 4-axis stuff and everything. So I'm trying to get some of this software off of me going into 2024 because it's a lot. Because between streaming software, between bookkeeping software, between Fusion 360, Vectric, Easel, freaking Lightburn, Galvo, Lightburn, it's just it gets to be a lot. The lift, I've got a video where I put Enclosure Zilla together. It hasn't changed the way that I've got it put together, but it has a button and it lets it up and down. It's really that simple. I did have to move my honeycomb a little bit the other day, but it still works the same way. Well, Gray, actually, I'm not like an IT nerd, like, Steve level IT nerd, but technically, I do have a background in computer forensics, and I did manage the police department's network for about 4 years. And I do have my only claim to fame of higher education was on a networking degree. So, not trying to take up for Steve, but I have a little bit of nerddom. It's just hard to see it under all this redneckness I got going on.
I think you and I are probably pretty close to on par with the level of technical savvy and networking knowledge and whatnot. Yeah, I mean, I live it and breathe it every day, but I'm, they got me in management, so.
Yeah.
I'm not. My fingers aren't in deep with it, as it used to be for me.
Well, when the new mayor took over, he decided that because for years the police department, we were the only place that had a server, had VPNs, had car, we had access in our cars, access in our smartphones, and all that. And when he came in, he decided to basically get a firm to come in and take it over. So I kind of passed most of the day to day stuff they do, but like if they want to change anything, modify equipment or the way it works or whatever, I kind of have to give it the all clear and let the powers that be know that hey, they're not just trying to take us for a ride, get a bunch of money out of us. So I still have to fact check them, but for the most part, I spend most of my day now spreadsheets and budget proposals and you know that kind of stuff. It's not glamorous anymore. The days of standoffs and laying in the woods watching houses waiting on murder suspects to come home and all that. Those days are that's been a while. Don't do that as much anymore.
Yeah.
Cool, Sam.
Sharon's asking along the lines of software. She's thinking of using a local maker's market to do acrylic cutting and 3D printing. What would be an easy program to use for the 3D printing? Nothing extensive, kind of thing like Dave does. It's going to depend on. I mean, if a lot of the maker's market or maker spaces have, they'll have some training sessions on it, and they might have some good recommendations on software that they like to use, which is obviously going to be far more helpful to you to get some local troubleshooting on. But unfortunately, yeah, you'll need to look at some software that can do STL modeling. Now, there's things. I mean, it's very simple stuff. You can start with something like Tinkercad online. You can play with SketchUp free online, and they are kind of draw shape, extrude it, push your shape through it. You can do some basic things there. But from there, you get a little more complex. You're going to need to get into the Tinkercad will do some of the basic stuff. SketchUp's actually fairly powerful once you get used to it and learn some of the tools or add extensions to it. Fusion 360 does have a free version for makers that you can play around with as well, and that would definitely be a good one to look into for that. But yeah, that's my base recommendation on it. But definitely, I would talk to the people at the place to see what they recommend.
Yeah, and if you can get, especially if you're just wanting to be able to 3D print and you're just getting into it, to be honest with you, you can go on like Thingiverse and places like that a lot of times and download the STL, assuming that wherever you go has the appropriate slicer for the machine that you could use. That would, you could make things without necessarily having to design them, because STLs are, fairly common to come around. But when you start, but then it's going to be a matter of time before you're like me. You're out here in the shop and you're like, man, I really need this or I really need that. And you're like, well, I could order it and it'd be here in 3 days, or I could just draw it up right quick and print it and I can have it in a little while. So that's kind of where I got is I wanted it to be able to make stuff for the shop. Like here a while back, I was helping my buddy build an enclosure for a laser, and that's when this happened. So because we didn't have a 4-inch flange for his enclosure, so I'm like, you know what? Let me drop in CAD right quick and let's draw one up and let's go print it. So while we were building the enclosure, it was in there printing, and so by the time we got through building the enclosure, we had the 4-inch exhaust tube for it. Now it's made out of PLA, but hey. Until I get proficient enough that I want to spend money on a nicer machine, I'm just going to stick with PLA. I don't think my ender's going to like ABS real well.
Yeah, there's a number of sites out there that'll have most anything someone's probably thought of it beforehand. So, I always search for it first. because if it's something I need, great, it's there. If it's something that's close that I just need to modify, even better. So Thingiverse is one, printables is another. There's GrabCAD, I think, is another. There are a lot of them out there to get various things. Just be mindful. Various makers that put their stuff out there will have various licensing requirements as far as whether it's free to use for yourself or okay to modify with attribution, things like that. Always try to honor the creator that's willing to share their stuff.
Well, see, I've got to the point now to where a lot of what I do, I just like doing it because it's just fun. Oh,
Yep.
Well, Jack, I've got mine in an enclosure for ABS, and I do have the upgraded hot end and everything on mine, as well as the upgraded extruder. Because if you get that PLA too hot, and you try to use the old extruder, it tends to stretch it and break it. So I did get a direct drive extruder and upgraded hot end and all that put on mine. So it will do ABS, but it's in the house in the living room, and PLA is just a lot less odorous. So I can be printing and nobody even know I'm printing because I zip up the enclosure and just leave it cracked just a little bit because I found PLA likes to have a little air, just not a lot. So I'll unzip it just a little bit, leave me just a little pocket for a little air circulation, and then I monitor it from out here and let it print while I'm out here working.
Yeah, my Cheaty Tech printer, they actually want you to take the plastic dome lid off and keep the door open when you're printing PLA versus putting it on, closing it up, letting the heater go when it's printing ABS and others. So.
Yeah, that's and that's something I had to learn too. Is some of those, like I said, if you get into like Jack's talking about with TPU or ABS or any of those higher melting points, they like it really, really hot. PLA, if you let it stay too hot in there, it will overheat and you'll start getting drips and everything else. But there's a balance. I almost want to get me one of those temperature regulated enclosures. But rather than do that, I'm just going to buy a machine that has its own temperature regulated enclosure because you want to keep the ambient air cool enough to where the part can cool with PLA, but warm enough that it doesn't cool too fast. And it takes a little while to kind of figure all that stuff out. What did I print this week? Oh, my camera mount that's inside the camera mount that's actually, when y'all look at this camera right here, that's actually one of my mounts that I printed. And yeah, I was printing it. And that's when I closed it up the first time, and it was too hot.
Yeah, a lot of people talk about the Bamboo Labs X1C and such. Definitely kind of the 3D printer to beat right now, but they have come out with a few different versions. So if you're in the market, neither of us have them. Neither of us, I mean, we're not going to send you any links for it. That's going to help us out, but it is definitely one. It's kind of the benchmark printer out there right now that everybody's trying to beat. So if you've got the drive and the money that you want to invest in that, it's a great way to go. And it's nice to see that they've come out with a few different options that bring it a little bit closer to others, because their X1 Carbon is like $1,200 on up, I think. But they have a 600, and now what is their bed slinger one? The A1, is that the small one? That people have been liking as well. So
yeah, we're talking about 3D printed parts.
Yeah,
this is why I like the 3D printer. That is my little camera I designed. That's my camera mount. When I pull up my enclosure camera, that's that camera right there. And I built it to where when I'm engraving, I've got a piece of laser safe. Hang on, dang it! I've got a piece of laser safe acrylic right here that when I'm videoing for videos, it slides into this little slot that I made on my camera mount so that it doesn't blue flash the camera as much. And then I made this little mount, which holds my air relay inside the enclosure. This is actually the Sculpt Fun version, or the Niji version, but I modified this and made a new one that I can use now. Matter of fact, I just printed my new one. It's over here. Steve will be wanting this file before long. But that's my little clamp for the relays, the air relays. It snaps in. It's got little teeth right there that kind of hold it in place. And then for added support, I added these little tabs here, so you can put a zip tie through there, and extra security to make sure it doesn't fall out. And then you have 2 screw holes here to screw it to the side of the enclosure with, and that holds your air relay for automatic air assist. Steve's like, "Yep, go ahead and email me that file when my X40 gets here." But that's the kind of stuff that I like to make, and like I said, it's just fun. One of these days, I'll get me a real 3D printer. For now, I'm having fun with my Ender.
I mean, for stuff like that, you know, where you can go fast, you're not looking for a super fine finish because you're making, you know, miniature model things or display pieces. Yeah, these other printers will go even a little bit faster, but you can run those pretty quick and crank those prints out without a lot of hassle. And that's great when you have a use like that for them versus just, you know, print out random tchotchkes and things you learn or download off of Thingiverse and printables.
Yeah. Yeah, somebody was asking, I think they're talking about the relays. They come in 2 flavors. You got 12 volts or 12 volts. Both of these are 12s. I've got a 24 ordered. But the way this works, and I'm running them on all machines in my shop that have automatic air. Dang, they should make airplanes out of this little saran wrap stuff. They'd never crash. But basically, you got an input and an output that you have fittings that go in there that resemble these guys. And so once you put all this together, then this just kind of like snaps in. Uh-oh, I just realized my zip tie thing may be in the wrong spot. Oh, yes, it's just gonna be. I'll have to go back in CAD and fix those. Or, hang on just a second. It's PLA, right? Okay, no more zip tie holders. But it just kind of snaps in right here. And so that holds the relay. And it doesn't really need the zip tie thing, so I think I'm just going in there. I'm gonna remove those from my design. But that holds the relay inside the enclosure. So yeah, the zip tie things they should have been up here rather than down here. I had them right beside where the lines come in.
Well, that's the beautiful thing about learning the software and having your own printer. You'll be able to modify that and have it printed
Which
out.
it really doesn't. It really doesn't need it. I mean, it's not coming out of there. But I just in an abundance of caution.
Uh-huh.
But this is my old 12 volt one that I was using, and it got to where it was sticking. It was hanging on me a little bit, and so this is the new 12 volt, and I've got a 24 volt is what's in that enclosure right there. That one on the wall is a 24 volt because the longer B1, the output voltage to the air assist is 24 on it. And I need another 24 because the X40 also outputs 24 volts to the air assist as well. So I've got it. It's somewhere on an Amazon truck. And then of course you need like random stuff like these.
Yeah, part of my day was cleaning my basement workshop up some, and it's where I have traditionally done a lot of my model airplane building. And I was going through all my boxes and bins of old connectors and adapters and battery things, and in the past 30 years of me doing that, there are some that have just gone the way of the dodo bird. So I figured it was about time I could toss out or recycle some of that stuff.
Yeah. But see, you wind up like say with the dang it, with the X40 over here, you wind up having to have like a pigtail like this. And you use these pigtails basically to wire the relay to this pigtail, and then this pigtail plugs into the relay that comes attached to the machine. So basically, it's no different than plugging the air assist pump into that relay. And then, of course, you got like this is a M7 relay. This could actually control your fan if you wanted it to, if you had the ability. And like random little cables and such. Like this is just a switch that's on these two, but it gives me both pigtails. So I recycle stuff like this. Like I'll take that apart, take the switch out of it, and I got a male and female pigtail to use to engineer a automatic air assist on something, because I don't really need a switch like that. But when you buy things, they come with these extra little gadgets sometimes, or just like this guy. I don't even know what this is for. Yes, I do. This was an Otour. This is for the light and fan in an Otour. But they included this cable, which I don't need, so I can actually cut this off and use this to power automatic air assist. So I never throw stuff away. I hoard electrical components, and I have for years. Never throw away a good plug, especially if it's a 24 volt.
Well, I had quite the collection, but it was there were some connectors in there. I knew that if I ran into them, I would be swapping them out for different newer ones. So I went ahead and tossed some. There's a question that maybe we can help out with from Brian. He's got this first laser, L2, hit power and got error message alarm 8 homing fail. Cycle failed to clear limit switch from pulling off. Try increasing pull off setting or check wiring.
Loose wire on that little what's the limit switch, the one that's hard to get to.
Yeah, you're gonna want to go through your wiring and double check all the connectors on there. It's likely that one has maybe a pin that isn't pushed in correctly, or I don't think you can reverse them, but it's sometimes those just aren't quite making contact. So I would start there, checking the wiring where you have to connect up those limit switches. And you talking about the one that's in the rail?
Yeah, there's one of them that's really, really hard to get to, and if you've got larger fingers, it's kind of hard to plug it in. I think I had to go back and hit that one again, because when I first put my machine together, it wasn't plugged in all the way, and so I was getting errors too. Gray said I'm a full-fledged IT nerd. I'm just partial. So on the Z1, I can run it into the controller. What are we talking about? The Z1, if it has a M7 or M8 output, which I don't, it's been a long time since I looked at a Z1, and I don't know if they've changed them since I had mine here in the shop. But you have to have an output, either an M7 or M8 on the board. And I don't have a board handy to show you. But usually when you look at the board, it'll have two little plugs. And they're normally going to have on the board, well, are these all, no, I think are these all female? What the heck? It'll normally have, on the board, you'll have a little plug, looks kind of like this guy. And it'll have usually red and black wires coming off of it. And one will be the output from the M7 and one will be the output from the M8 if they're connected. Not all controllers are set up to use them. I have seen controllers that have them and they don't do nothing because they're not turned on in the software. But that's why I have like a bunch of these little things. I like to tinker. Now, it's not always a good idea because I have created some messes that I had to get myself out of, and it took me days to fix things. But I like to try to make things a little better than they come from the factory. Sometimes that has a cost associated with it, but most of the time I can make it work. But these little I think it's JSTs. Ain't these JSTs? Yes, JSTs.
There's a lot of things called JSTs.
Yeah, they sell these little JST connectors with a 22 gauge wire, and they come anywhere from 2 to I think 6 pins is as big as they get, and they're really common on every machine I've had here, as well as 3D printers and like some of the CNC stuff with the same smarts and stuff. They use a lot of the same plugs because it's just whatever they can get the cheapest, I guess. They're just very common. Can I update the firmware on an X-Tool? No, to update any X-Tool device, you have to use XCS now. I don't think you can even do it with Creative Space no more, or Basic. I think you've got to use XCS for all firmware updates now.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, when you get to the point where you have to get a soldering iron and you start buying plugs and stuff like that, you've taken tinkering to a whole new level. But it's cool. Yeah, Chris, I think my other box has got like 50 different variations of those plugs, anywhere from 2 to 6 different connectors. 840, 800. Now I don't know about the Pete. I haven't seen the A40 800 by 850, but if they've got it out already, you're probably have to go to Adam Stack's website to pick that up. Because I haven't seen it on Amazon or anything. Oh, well, thank you, Cockatoo Birdman Bill. Appreciate you.
David was asking if there's a 120 volt VAC. I assume they're talking about the relay. And there are various relays you can get. For the longest time during COVID, they were very much out of stock. But
this one, ouch. Go ahead. I'm trying to get this thing open. I
don't know that I have it out here. There's one that I found that it has standard plugs on it, but it has the wiring that you can tap in. Yeah, kind of like that. To where it'll control an outlet, which is nice on the CNC machine, is that you can then tell it to turn on your dust collection, turn it off, like with the spindle or things like that.
Yeah, the one that I have, I can't take the cover off of it. I've got it actually in a receptacle box. But I have one on my CNC that it's basically the same as this one. It's just a lot heavier duty, because this one's not made to pull the kind of amperage that, say, a CNC spindle would. But this was made for like your fans and like any kind of small. I don't forgot what this one's rated at, and I don't have my little reading glasses with me. But this is a Niji 120 relay, and like I said, you can actually use this with the Niji. It will actually turn the fan on for you, or lights, or whatever. And you just have to wire these terminal blocks. You have an input and an output, and you have to wire them in. But they do, and I have them on my Amazon. If you go to my Amazon shop under my CNC stuff, I think there's links to the relays that I use for the DC switch that turns on my router. You could use that on like air, ventilation, or anything else as well. And then I have another relay that I use on my dust collection, so that when I turn it on, it all comes on. So.
So put this out there. This is one that I have used a couple times, and I believe it's up to a 15 amp. It has the pins on it, and then I think there's a pass-through, and then one controllable, one or two controllable 120 volt AC outlets on it. So fairly inexpensive, and then you just tap in your leads to your control board.
We find the one I was talking about from CNC related. Well, I didn't. Yeah, I did. There you go. This is the one I'm running on my CNC, and it's done me a good job. Now, you do need to buy some type of an enclosure for it. I will say that because I was not comfortable having it out here around the cats and stuff without it being in an enclosure, because it's basically a relay with a heat sink on it, and it's got two little screw holes. But what I did is I bought a double gang box and screwed it to the double gang box and then put the lid on it, the cover on it, so that cats and stuff couldn't get to it. But the double gang box, being it's galvanized and it's got the holes, a couple of holes knocked out of it, it kind of allows some heat to get through there. Plus, it acts as an extra heat sink because it's a big metal box. And I haven't had any problems with it overheating or anything. And that's how I'm able to, like, activate everything over there on that CNC without having to walk over and flip the spindle on, because the spindle's controlled by the DC output to the factory spindle controls the DeWalt, and then DeWalt turns itself on through the relay that it's plugged into. But yeah, it's a lot of wiring and stuff goes into all this stuff. I will say that you don't realize how much you spend until you look at how much you spend on a relay. It's like I spent $12 on that one little relay, which is still not bad, but.
Well, there's those creature comforts of automating things.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's nice now. Like I said, don't get me wrong, because I can pull up easel right now. Well, I gotta go over and power it up because it's turned off right now, but it'll spin up and go.
Yep.
CNC mill has a relay for coolant. Just need a valve for my fog buster coolant. Okay, I don't know what that is. Hey, I'll be right back. I gotta step outside for a second.
So, just scrolling through here, we got a few minutes left. If you have any final questions for us, drop them down below. Otherwise, definitely thank everyone for hanging out with us. Hit those like buttons, and if you're subscribed to one channel or the other, and not the others, go check them out. And we're looking forward to hitting this next year running. I know we both had kind of our goals we met for this year. I'm sure we'll be setting some for this coming year, and appreciate you all being along with that. So we'll see how that goes. And he's back.
Woo!
I said nothing.
I'm back.
I said nothing bad about you.
Well, I had to walk outside for a second and check on some stuff. Oh, but yeah, somebody asked me a while ago if I knew Out in the Woods, the Sawmill YouTube channel, and I don't know him personally, but I have watched his channel, and yes, he has a lot bigger sawmill than I do, but he kind of does it halfway commercially, and I don't think he has a full-time job. So in my defense, spending $5,000 on a sawmill was a bit of a stretch for a hobby. Spending $50,000 on a sawmill, it's kind of more than a hobby, in my opinion. Now, my brother-in-law, he has a $64,000 sawmill as his hobby, but he got a lot. He got a lot more hobby money than I got. So there's cats running everywhere behind me. But yeah, sawmills are fun. I bought mine for one reason. I wanted to put wood on the walls of my shop, and it was during COVID, and a sheet of plywood was like $50. And I got to doing the math, and I was like, by the time I buy plywood to put around this building, I will have spent $1,000, and I could just go get me a sawmill and actually like the way it looked more than the plywood. And y'all excuse the piece of tin. I've got to get me a pine log. I've got to cut 2 more boards to put there. The reason that's there is because that's where my heater used to be, my wood heater. And I did that to keep setting the wall on fire. There's no boards behind it, so I got to leave the tin up until I get me some more boards. But hopefully it'll be out of there for too long.
Eddie was asking about leveling a wasteboard on the CNC. Well, get the biggest bit that your spindle will handle, and then take shallow passes and be ready with your dust collection because it's a messy job. And the smaller the bit you have, the longer it takes. But then also probably going to want to look up tramming your machine, because if you find after you level it that your passes are, if they've got ridges, it means your gantry isn't trammed to perpendicular to your board. So you might need to make some adjustments there as well. But it's very good to do, and to take that time, because once you have that all dialed in, have your gantry trammed and your spoil board level, you should be able to set up your files knowing the thickness of your material and have it just kiss that spoil board and cut nice clean way through it. So, but it is messy.
Yeah, I did mine the other night. I just set up, basically, I just set it up to do a 400 by 400. I think it's 420 by 420, just to make sure I went over the edge with a 1-inch flat bit. And yeah, it was dusty. I did adjust the dust boot, though, to get it just right. So it did a pretty good job. But now, I got to get me a better bit because I went cheap on my bit, or either I think the DeWalt is spinning it too fast. It's charring the corners. Like, it's getting like almost like overheating.
Yeah,
So
that's heating up then. So
I think I need to get rid of the DeWalt and go with something I can turn the speed down, because I think I'm spinning this way too fast and it's causing it to build up heat in the corners. Because I don't know if you can see that, but it's charred in the edge of the corner right
oh
there.
yeah, could see it on that tip there a little bit. Yep,
So
spinning it too fast.
So
you
I'm
need
gonna have
it.
to either get a spindle or get a variable speed router. And I like DeWalt, but let's face it, I didn't know when I bought these DeWalts that you couldn't go, but what is it, 12,000 RPMs? I think it's as low as it goes. And yeah, it smelled like burning wood in here when I was surfacing my board. Now, it did a good job. I mean, it come out flat and smooth, but it was smoking the place up. Yeah, Brian agrees it's too fast. That's what I figured. It was just spinning so fast, it's causing problems. That's what it looked like. That, and it was making dust instead of chips. Yeah, I was a little afraid, Brian, to go much faster. The 4040s, you have to go kind of slow because it's got a little flex in it, more so than the 3030 or the 6050. It's got a little bit of a flex, so you kind of have to be careful with the speeds, or you'll wind up causing your router to tip when you go one way or the other.
Yeah, MDF, it's hard to not make dust with that. It doesn't chip as nicely as solid wood.
So.
Nope.
All right, it is a hour and 58 minutes into the live. If you hadn't already, guys, hit the like, follow, subscribe, share, all those good buttons. And if y'all have any ideas, and I think I speak for Steve as well, if y'all have any ideas for content or things that you want to know about, feel free to drop a message to me or email me or drop it in the laser community page or whatever, because sometimes y'all ask questions and it's like, oh, that'd be a good video. So, other than us just always showing you the cool stuff that we make or showing you the latest and greatest machines, sometimes it would be cool. A lot of people asking about the air assist, how I'm hooking them up, what to look for, that kind of thing. I had 2 people message me today, and I think one of them's in here, asking me about output voltages and how to use a relay to do shop air and that type of thing. So when y'all ask those questions, that kind of gives us, gives me an idea, okay, that might be something that folks want to see. Now, it might not be the most watched video, but for the guy that's trying to hook up his shop air to his machine and don't understand it, it would be very valuable. Because I'm not necessarily always about, getting the most views necessarily. I want to be able to help people. Now, it's nice when they do get a lot of views, but I like to kind of mix it up. So if y'all have questions like that, feel free to send them to me because it does help inspire, the next week or so's videos. Because like right now, I've got got about 4 different air assist setups going on in this shop, which I'm only using. The X tool has its own pump, and I'm not messing with that because that's where a lot of people talk about X tool and some of these machines versus the Atom stacks and the longers. If you like tweaking with things and messing with them, X tool is not your go-to because everything's proprietary. The way it's put together, it won't work the way that you want it to. So if you're not somebody that likes to mess with the machines, then X tool is great. But the Atom stacks, the Nijis, the longers, all of those machines, there's so much that you can do to them to sometimes improve them or work them into your enclosures and make them a little bit better. But then, you got other ones like this guy really doesn't. It doesn't need a whole lot. I mean, everything on it works pretty well. The automatic air assist, I could add to it because it does have an output coming out of the back of it that I could run to a relay. But the little pump that it's got works pretty well. So I haven't fooled with that yet.
Yeah, I often liken X tool to Apple, and it works. It does a good job. They give you everything you kind of need to make it work, but they're not going to let you change it.
Yeah, so, they got it locked down. I mean, and like I said, I thought, to be honest with you, I thought the Atom stack was going to outperform the X tool in cutting, and I did as this big elaborate. Let me show you. Now I did learn something about the S1 that I didn't know. I did this big elaborate test, and so I went in, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. This should have worked. I went into Lightburn. I created a speed test. I exported the G code, went over to XCS, imported the G code into XCS because my goal was I wanted to do the exact same speed test on both machines. I mean, that sounds like the way to do it, right? With G code, because I didn't want to use the XCS tool. Well, that's what I wound up with. Triangles. Now, if you look closely, there's some squares in there, but for some reason, the X tool, when I brought the G code in, X tool turned them into triangles, except for there's a square right there. And there was another square somewhere else on one of these, but I couldn't get it to work. So I wound up just doing as good a job as I could replicating it in XCS and run it multiple times on the same sheet of material. And believe it or not, using Lightburn on the X tool S1, it was only dropping it at 14 millimeters a second to 15 millimeters a second, right? But when I switched over and started running XCS, all of a sudden, it's dropping it at 19. So I don't know what they're doing in that XCS software, but I will tell you this. This is one thing that I learned from doing this, is that if you're using the S1 in Lightburn, you're not getting the same cutting potential out of it that you do in XCS. And I don't know what they're doing in the software, but this was the results. Even though the shapes are weird, this was the results in Lightburn, and that was the results in XCS. And that shocked me because I was like, why is there a 4 millimeters a second difference in the cutting ability from Lightburn to XCS? And I haven't answered that question yet. That's going to be a video for another day. But I have started doing the testing with the 240 watts head to head. And so just thought that was interesting that running Lightburn, I got less results. And I checked my S value. It ain't the S value.
So here's one. We can answer one more before closing it out. But ETLC is asking what CNC router is the best to first buy for average size job. I guess it's going to depend on what you consider an average size job. But if you're dipping your toe into a CNC router, I caution people away from the real cheap desktop engravers that you see. But it's also, you can very quickly escalate into a very large, very expensive machine. I don't have personal experience with it, but Clack's been using it. That 4040 from Genmitsu seems to bridge that gap pretty well. It's about a $600 machine with the stock spindle. It's got about the same working area as your typical diode laser, and is powerful enough to do some decent work, and help you kind of learn the basics of CNCs without breaking the bank. So, that's right now. Now, I don't have personal experience with that one myself. I've got their 6050, which is a little bit different. And then I've got my larger machine, but I've dealt with a number of different CNC machines. So that one is about the smallest, cheapest one I would probably recommend people look at.
And if you don't need a very big work area, like this one, you can do on the 3030 Pro Ver. And I'm gonna be honest with you, the 3030, I didn't use it as much because I was kind of stuck on my 4040 because of the work area. But that 3030 that Klein took out of here a while ago, like for something like this, it'll stroke it out. Like we did a plaque, we did the same flag design with that 3030, and engraved Klein's logo on there, which is what I showed y'all earlier. And it really, seriously, only took like 30 minutes. Now it was on pine, and I did, play with the speeds and stuff. But so you could do something, this size, and then this is all laser engraved here. This is a laser engraved little inset piece of black walnut I did. But yeah, it's I like the little small machines. I need a larger work area, but this is how I'm learning and figuring out what it is I need. Because once I can start making some products and get them out there, then I'll know exactly what I need to look for in my big full size machine. Yeah, Chris, I'm not sure what they're doing on the back end of the software, but yeah, they're doing something. I did find that out. They're doing something on the back side of their software. But yeah, I like this one. The black walnut was almost a little dark once I stained it or sealed it, but as long as the lighting is right, you can still see the detail. It's got really, really fine detail. But I engraved that. So, but yeah, this one was just a straight up CNC. But and then we did 2 more today. So while Klein was over here. And just so you know, Steve. And y'all saw me up at the Sawmill getting this the other day, right? This ain't the same board, of course, but it's the same log.
All right. Well, we've gone over time, but we thank everyone for hanging out with us. And I don't know, you got any last words for tonight?
Happy New Year! Looking forward to 2024, and I don't know, keep the ideas coming, and I appreciate y'all more than you know. I do stay very busy out here, but I've always kind of stayed busy out here anyway. But it's kind of cool. The community has gotten a lot bigger. The lives are getting bigger. My emails are getting more often, but it's fun. And if y'all can hang out with me for about another 21 months, hopefully I'll be retired, and this will be all I do, if Lord's willing, and everything works out the way it's supposed to be. And I'm going to irritate Steve so bad because he told me the other day that just me being off work, he can see now that when I retire, it's going to be really hard for him because he's going to be at work trying to work, and I'm going to be sending him pictures of cool stuff I'm doing. But yeah, I may try to get on tomorrow some. I'm going to try to I got some stuff done around the yard, and I'm going to try to get up to the Sawmill and finish that log that I started the other day. I was going to do it today, and then Klein came over, and we started having CNC class, and so that took a turn for the worst. But now just keep watching, keep spreading the word, and I appreciate all y'all's input. Y'all help me learn probably as much as I help y'all learn. I don't know if y'all realize that or not, but you actually do, because you challenge me sometime to kind of push my abilities. And somebody said earlier that they had never met a police officer that could like weld a circuit or weld a joint. But y'all got to remember, I haven't done the law enforcement job my entire life. I worked a civilian job in the woods for about 7 years before I went into law enforcement, and also worked on CB radios back in the day. That's where I actually learned how to work a soldering iron. Was from an old gentleman that lives north of us that had his own CB shop. I was basically his apprentice, and I would go over there and work in exchange for him, like helping me buy parts for my CB setup that I had in the house. So that's where I kind of got my soldering skills from back in the day. But
Well,
yeah,
I'll echo all that. I'm not nearly as close to my retirement options as Clack is, but still going to be pushing hard on continuing to do things out here because, yeah, I enjoy coming out here, spending time working on projects, and when possible, capturing that on video, showing people how I do it, putting files out there as well. So appreciate everyone's support. Had a lot of growth this year in various ways with the channel and the Etsy shop and whatnot, and we try not to throw sale. We try not to be pushy with the sales and whatnot, but appreciate everybody that does the things. Use the links and use the affiliate links with Amazon, even if you're just shopping for something else. We do appreciate that because it does help us continue to do more and buy the gadgets to make these streams a little bit better, the cameras and the lights and the computers and such. Once again, thank everyone for this great year, and we're not giving it up. We're going to be continuing to do this and hopefully continuing to pass on as much as we can. So,
yep.
And in that spirit, if you're bored and you want to watch someone else, I do see that Patrick with Light Source Engraving, he is live right now doing stuff. So
Is he
if
now?
you want to continue hanging out with talking lasers with people, I'm going to drop a link in my channel, and I'll put it out in the main one for Clack as well. Go on over there, send them some love, tell them hi from Vintari and Clack, and support him because I know he's
hit him with a Sunday Night Live crew.
Even if you just want to, even if you you got to run, if you can jump over there, kind of drop in on him, give him a nice little push. I know he's been trying to get some more things going with his channel as well. So if you can take a couple minutes and send him some love from us.
Yeah, hit him with it can't be a Clack attack. It needs to be a, what do we need? What's the code word? We need to come up with a code word. That'll make it fun because he'll be like, what is going on? What's the code word going to be? I don't know. Let's see, laser engraving community. I don't know. We could do a laser engraving community attack. We could say LEC attack. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know. Yeah, just do Vintari and Clack say hi. That works.
Yeah,
whatever.
Just do that and go send him some love. Say hi, and if you want to hang out, see what he's doing. He does a lot with fiber lasers and whatnot, and I know he's been.
He also makes those feet for the Lasermatic right there. That's where I got those from. But yeah, just run over there and just whatever. Just go bomb up his comment, blow his comments up, make him scratch his head, and figure out what's going on. But you guys be safe. Like I said, if nothing comes up, if my cold stuff doesn't come back, hopefully tomorrow I'll be out and about, and I may bring y'all along on some, something. Who knows? But anyway, good night, everybody. Happy New Year, and we'll see y'all next year.
We'll see you.